Welcome back. We're back with another episode of the Foxy Bros podcast, and it has been a while. This is the show where we talk about different things that grab our attention and see where the conversation takes us. Now, I'm your host, Foxy, and I'm joined today by returning guests, Mr. Mr. Ciaran Anonymous, and
Hey, I changed it to Marcantonio. You should see it by now.
I'm messing with you, Ciaran Marcantonio, and I'm also joined by fellow Nerds Us member Cutter. How are you
Hello.
two doing?
Doing pretty good,
Fabulous, as always.
So today on this episode, I decided to try and finally get this subject on after weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Decided to talk about DC in general, but also going to spend a good bit of time on the Snyder Cut. Now, Dennis, I know you haven't seen it, but you don't mind spoilers. And
That's right. I was very specific. I said it's on my list to see. I have this big list of shit that people keep saying you need to watch this, you need to watch, right? And so I'm working my way through it steadily, but
Yeah.
I have yet to be able to commit enough time to see that behemoth of a movie. So
it is
but,
4 hours.
yeah, but that said, it is my intention to see it, and I've never cared too much for spoilers. Although listeners or viewers, if you do care, please be aware that this podcast more than likely does contain spoilers. So you may want to tune out now if that sort of thing irks you, or alternatively, complain to Foxy on Twitter. He loves that.
Yes. Ask no thoughts.
yes, fuck you.
Hashtag Snyder Cut. So we can get the Snyder Bros right in there, all over.
Snyder Cut spoiled. Fuck you, Foxy.
I mean, you realize it straight up. The Snyder Bros are going to come for us now that we immediately have admitted that we have one person on the podcast who has not seen it. That's it. Like, you're dead, man. What are you doing?
Oh, fuck. I've just fucked my entire goddamn life. Snyder's always fucking with me.
No, but like obviously, like it's like DC haven't had the best track record of movies, like live action movies. There has been a scattering of one or two here and there, like through the years, but Justice League originally was not one of those good films.
No.
This is what I was going to ask you guys. So, you know, I did see the original Justice League. Okay.
Let us henceforth refer to it throughout the podcast as the Justice League.
The Justice League. I do much prefer that. So I did see that, and obviously, like most people, I didn't enjoy it. It felt, now, obviously, given the circumstances, terrible tragedy for Zack Snyder and all that, that's all completely understandable why he stepped away and all that. And more credit to him for coming back and rectifying it in a lot of people's eyes. But, you know, I've been told by several people, and I suppose I wanted to ask you guys, that's it's like a completely different movie. It's like a completely different movie. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would agree with that, because like it's so Joss Whedon came in and basically, as far as I'm aware, like this, Ciaran, you might be able to like correct me on this one, but like
spilled some tea.
The studio like was heavily like influencing like Whedon to change a lot of stuff for that film. And
here's kind of how it went. Right, so the tragedy happens. Autumn Snyder passes away, and Zack and Deborah Snyder, Deborah being the executive producer, and Zack, of course, being the director, felt at the time that they couldn't complete the film. Principal photography had been completed. What needed to be done was special effects and a few pickups, a few small bits here and there, just to finish it off. And at that time, Warner Brothers took a look at what they had and realized this is going to be a 4-hour behemoth. We don't want that. We have an opportunity here to get the guy who we have to remember, of course, this is all pre-Joss cancellation. Okay. At the time that Joss was hired, Joss was coming off of Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron.
He was a hot property.
He was a
Yeah.
hot property, specifically in the group superhero scenario.
Yeah.
He also had a history with Warner Brothers that went back many years. And they kind of saw him as a solid choice to come in and do this. What they asked him to do essentially was take this 4 hours and turn it into a 2-hour popcorn movie. That's a feel good, bring the team together, everybody goes home happy, everybody is yada yada, Justice League. And to Joss's credit, he did that. He did what he was asked. Now, what's come out since, of course, has been, in doing what he was asked to do, he was a fucking nightmare to deal with, and caused some problems not only on set but with particular actors such as Ray Fisher, such as Gal Gadot, where their roles were significantly altered and minimized in his cut to what they would have been in the original cut. And I do say the original cut, not the Snyder cut, because realistically, Snyder had a couple of years to look at what he had and tweak it to. I think the vision that we got now is a vision that's one of hindsight, that has seen the mistakes that were made and corrected them and restored it to what it would have been with a couple of new scenes and turned it in a direction that would have been very interesting. But for Joss to come in and do what he did, he is essentially a gun for hire who was brought in to cut movie into a 2-hour popcorn flick. Yeah. And by all standards and by all credits, he did that. But whether he did that to success, either box office, story, financially, or in the eyes of the other actors, it kind of fell short in every single regard.
I think it was very underwhelming for what should have been kind of like a Avengers Endgame. It was like a payoff to all this stuff being set up. Now, granted, we've had a lot of problems. Like DC and Warner Brothers have had the major problem of like shotgun and a lot of like trying to cram as much as possible into a short time frame. Like you had Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, then you had it basically jumped straight into Justice League.
Right. Actually, that's I was just going to say this. Do you feel that like because they were trying to play catch up in a sense with the likes of Endgame, and Endgame obviously, that was years and years and years of kind of build up to that thing through various different movies, the MCU, building up to that point, and the DC was kind of playing catch up in a way. And do you think it was a bit rushed that they were trying to go out with that, to compete directly with it as opposed to creating their own slow build universe?
Absolutely. It was completely shotgun. Like they were trying to play catch up instead of thinking long term, like taking the Marvel formula, which worked over a long period of time, and Marvel continuously is reaping the rewards of that. Whereas like DC decided, oh no, we're not going to wait. We're going to chuck it all out now, but there's no substance to it. Yeah. Like it's half thought out ideas about, right, we want to get this character in so we can get this. We want to get this storyline in so we can get that. It's like, but you're not really actually like thinking about how the mechanics of that story will play out. You're just thinking, let's chuck it in there and hope that it makes sense.
That, and I think the audience, for anything, needs time to care, to invest in the characters. You have to build up this thing. So like when something like, again, I'm referencing MCU here, but Tony Stark dying, it means so much more because you've had so many years built into this guy as a character, and then you're like, oh my God, he's actually done, and it means something. Whereas, you only have a couple of, you had Wonder Woman. Aquaman. What did you have building into it?
Okay.
Aquaman, Wonder Woman.
No. Aquaman came after. Let's be clear.
Oh, you're correct. Yes.
I'll give you the straight timeline as I see it. We had, first of all, Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, Batman versus Superman. in between Batman versus Superman and Justice League came Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad. And when you begin to look at the phenomenon that is the MCU, and it is a phenomenon, and you begin to compare that to the DCEU, I absolutely agree that there was a level of shotgunning, but here's where I differ in my opinion from Foxy. Zach had a plan, and that plan kept getting nipped at the heels by the studio making changes.
Mm-hmm.
And now, again, it's looking at it with hindsight. If you look at the extended editions of Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and now Zack Snyder's Justice League, if you watch those three as a trilogy, you begin to see the plan. The plan was there.
Right.
And the plan was to end Justice League with the team fully realized as the characters they are and the characters we know. And I think one of the biggest sufferings of the entire thing is that, and I said this to a friend while we were watching it recently, and I know you haven't seen it, Cutter, but one of the reasons I really recommend that you do see it is that in the cuts that happened because of Joss, the heart of that movie was cut out of it. The development of Cyborg, the development of Barry Allen, the development of Arthur Curry, and the arc that was in place already for Bruce, Diana, and Clark are all there, and are all everything that you would question as a mistake in the previous movies or as a contradiction or as a gap suddenly has an answer in this film. The plan was somewhat retroactive. It was start with them all and then build them into the characters that they will become. If you look at Man of Steel, he's not Superman by the end of that movie. He's beginning to learn how to be Superman, thus learning the lessons of, protect people when we're in these kind of over the top fights, take it to places where people are no longer populated so that you can minimize destruction. These lessons that Superman needed to learn by being thrown in at the deep end in Man of Steel come to fruition through Batman versus Superman. Again, I say the extended edition because there's a good 40 minutes cut out of that movie too. And now with more reason given to Superman's death in the Zack Snyder cut, and more emphasis and weight given to his resurrection and how that occurs and why it occurs and the person he is when he comes back, we now see the arc of Clark Kent going from unsure of himself to unsure of the world to now being the fully realized version of Superman that we all know and love. And that arc, if you cut any of the bits out that were cut out,
it loses it.
It loses it. Yeah, massively.
I have two questions, and
sure.
Before you get into, I'm sure Foxy, you have your list of questions too, but it's kind of curious. Two questions, Ciaran, you may be able to answer. So number one, do you think that, again, as somebody who hasn't seen it yet, do you think that, because all I've heard is how fantastic it is, how great it is, it fixes it all, it's brilliant. Do you think it would have gotten such high praise if the first one wasn't that bad? If you get me, do you think it was great on its own merit, or is it great by comparison? If that makes sense.
I've done a lot of thinking about this because my thinking went to where would we be now if this had come out originally in this form? And I think we'd be in a very different place with the DCEU if that had happened.
Yeah.
Because it would have answered all of these gripes so many years earlier that people would have seen it as, oh, now I get it.
Okay.
It wasn't spoon feeding you, and I'm not saying that in a derogative way towards the way the MCU sometimes does things, but the MCU is very fan service. Very, here's something you love, we're going to give you more of it. Whereas DC went, no, we're going to make you wait. You're going to get what you want, but it's going to be so much more satisfying because of the long-term booking.
Yeah.
The MCU is shooting WWE style angles, while DCEU or Kenny Omega telling 10-year Ibushi stories. You know what I mean? And like, that's kind of how I see it. But I don't know, man, because I don't know if it didn't happen that way. It's happened this way.
It's tough to kind of,
So
it's tough to look back at a kind of augmented reality, I suppose, of it.
Exactly. Which is funny because the film itself deals with creating an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
So here we are debating shit we landed in the timeline where this didn't come out. You know?
I suppose the other one I have is again directly related to it, and I'll leave it to you, Foxy, after this, was just because of the nature of it, obviously a huge movie, 4 hours long, which you don't see all that often. You know, with the exceptions of the likes of Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't really see it that often. But it was because I think it could be completely wrong here. Again, you probably know, but it was probably because of the likes of the pandemic, etc. It made it easier to release directly into people's homes, as opposed to saying we want you to sit in the cinema for 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know, which probably made it more accessible too, in my opinion. Do you think that's something that maybe companies and studios will take a cue from? I know a lot of companies are doing a lot of straight to house kind of releases now. That's kind of a new way they're doing it. But do you think they'll do maybe longer versions of the movies, more the director's interpretation of what it was, like Snyder with his 4 hours thing, because you're more likely to sit down and watch that in the comfort of your own house rather than, I suppose, taking the 4 hours to go to the cinema, obviously depending on who you are, but that's my opinion on it anyway. What do you think?
You're actually it's you're completely right in the sense that it actually was better for people to get it in the comfort of their homes. Now, I'm one of the few people that actually genuinely like the fact that it's longer, because I'm happy to roll with a longer film as long as a coherent story is being told,
keeps you engaged,
and it's and not even to the degree it's like, okay, like we're like with the Whedon cut, it was rapidly cut down, like, and it just, certain parts didn't match up to like the kind of pace that they were trying to have the movie at. Whereas like with Zack Snyder's 4 hour version, you can, and he purposely like made it that you can actually separate it into 4 sections and watch it like it. Oh, it was 6, was it?
6, yeah.
Like when I watched it, it was actually like cut into 4 parts as opposed to 6.
So it has purpose cuts that you could take a break and come back and watch again.
It literally has chapters that come up on screen.
Like that's I mean, you're going back to Pulp Fiction times there. That's a really smart idea, you know, to do that.
And each chapter is kind of centered around one of the members of the league. You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
And each chapter kind of tells the story of, say, you know, chapter tells a story on Cyborg, chapter tells a story on the history of the Amazonians with Darkseid. You know, it really breaks it down into, you know, the story of Superman, the story of Cyborg, the story of Aquaman, the story of, and then gets to the point where it's bringing them all together.
Yeah.
You know, and why they're being brought together, which has a lot more weight in this version. But to bring it back to the home viewing thing, like, I kind of like sitting at home watching it.
Yeah.
You know, we've all got big TVs now.
Yeah.
We've all got high-speed internet. You know, the difference between cinema and home experience is becoming smaller as time goes on, and I definitely think the pandemic advanced that.
Yes.
100%. You know, there's movies coming out now, and I'm immediately going, oh, there's movies back in the cinema, but I haven't gone back yet. You know, I'm still comfortable watching movies. I've become comfortable watching movies at home. And with something like this that is a bum burner, I mean, I know, like, as a point of fact, Cutter, when you do watch it, it's in 4:3 ratio because it was shot for IMAX.
Okay.
So, and they released it in 4:3 ratio because Zach was like, I might release it in IMAX one day, but if it's going to any cinema, it's only going to go to IMAX because that's what it was designed for.
Right.
So the home version is literally in 4x3 box when you watch
Okay.
it, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
It allows you for Zach's excuse for superhero framing was that more superhero shots are actually boxed in nature. You know, if you actually look at them, a large single page spread, it's actually wider at the top and the bottom than it is on the side and the side.
Mm.
And so he took a little bit from comic book reference for his framing and built his frames taller instead of wider. And that is some deep directorial thinking when it comes to translating comics to page that I fucking appreciate on a nerd level.
Yeah.
You know? So it's weird in that I would love to see it in an IMAX experience. But again,
Yeah.
you're thinking 4 hours, and 4 hours in a cinema is whew. Whereas 4 hours at home, you can take a break, you can pause it, you can make some food, you can come back to it.
That's what I was thinking. You know, exactly like you said, 4 hours of cinema, that's a slog. Like there's no other way of putting it. Like that's a big one. You know, like, but 4 hours at home, much more doable.
It's hard enough
know?
doing the Lord of the Rings, like one of those films,
Yeah.
like in the cinema. So like,
yeah,
I can understand that. So that's why, like, I do agree that it's a little bit easier. That it made it more palatable for people,
more digestible as well.
Yeah. To do that and to be split into the 6 chapters, which is actually a great thing.
And you know, it is something we're probably going to see, as I kind of addressed on a podcast before, that like interesting. So the first it was Trolls 2, the kids movie, holds the distinction of being the very first movie ever released to homes. Right. So you had to purchase that and watch it at home.
Okay.
Because it was released in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it bypassed all that. And it was incredibly successful.
Yeah.
Incredibly successful. So much so the studio went, we actually saved quite a bit of money here by doing this, because we didn't have to do digital copies out to cinemas, all blah, 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 all this stuff. No, we can just literally beam it out. There you go. It's premiering at this time in your home. There you go. It kind of set the precedent for what we would see. And we may see more and more, because from a business standpoint, for production companies, it makes much more sense. If they can save money, they're going to do that, and they can still make it back. We may be seeing that more and more in the future, with more and more movies where they just release it straight to your home.
Well, let's talk straight about Warner Brothers. Their decision was swift and was a shocker when it came out that, you know, once Justice League had aired, within 5 days, they announced that 21 of their major films were going to go direct to box office, or we're going to go direct to the HBO Max. Those being some of their bigger tentpole films like Godzilla vs. Kong and Dune, which is still being debated whether it's going to go straight to release or straight to cinema. But, you know, it caused a shockwave throughout the industry and throughout the production side of things, because a lot of the production side of things only make their money in the back end, you know. Therefore, you know, if they were to release films directly to streaming, then there was going to have to be an arrangement made for money to be paid for what would have been either a loss of direct
pay-per-view service or whatever you say. Yeah.
And whole new deals had to be negotiated, which is why you saw the likes of Gal Gadot come out when Wonder Woman was being announced as being direct to streaming and whatnot. That, you know, we're going to do these direct to streaming, but we're going to support them because I hear some of those actors got a bit of money in the bank account to say, yeah, look, we're going this way, support this. But definitely, I mean, it the pandemic contributed to it, but certain large tentpole films like this, like Wonder Woman, like Trolls, like just the films that started to do this, the first films we saw in this way, were still making profits. Yeah, which was a very difficult thing for the film industry to do during the pandemic.
And I'll just say, actually, profits above what was projected for that particular movie.
Very much so. Very much so.
And it could change the way we see everything. And obviously, it's an exciting thing when, you know, and it makes you think about other movies and that may not have hit the bar for us personally. And you kind of think, well, is there a lot lying on the cutting room floor that we may have
I swear by it. There's an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad where Jared Leto gives a good performance, and
according to him, there is.
Well, Cutter, here's the thing, right?
According to him, there is, and according to him, he's never watched it. So yeah, very hard to believe that.
Well, Foxy. Now let's not do Jared Leto too dirty too quickly.
No. I'm one of the ones that's for him to be Joker. So like,
by God, he proved himself. They gave him one scene in this movie.
Yes,
one scene in Zack Snyder's edition, and Jared Leto turned the whole performance around into me going, I want to see more of this Joker, and I want to see more
fair
of this Joker
enough.
right the fuck now.
Yeah.
Now that's impressive to me. Impressive to me
because I was one of the big deriders of him. I was
that's impressive because like I suppose I would have been too, along with them. Like the Joker I know from comics and stuff, seeing him with a gold grill and tattoos and shit like that, just it kind of felt weird to me. You know.
Did you read Death Metal?
I did not.
Okay. It's hard for me to put a comparison in there, but the Joker in Justice League Snyder Cut is visually and character-wise so fucking close to the Joker in Death Metal, who's at the end of the world with Batman and has seen Batman do all the nasty shit Batman's had to do to be at the end of the world, and is going, you and me, not so different really, are we? We just paint it up in different ways. And the attitude that you get, and I won't spoil the conversation for what's in this movie, but by God, when you see Jared Leto and Ben Affleck come face to face and just have a conversation, it's chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
Like for me, when I watched it, like I enjoyed like just like watching the Zack Snyder like Justice League, but like that scene alone, like it was what a hell of a way to set up what potentially could have happened or still could happen. And the dynamic of it is just brilliant. Like the groundwork for it. Like it's already been laid, but it's just whether we'll ever get it is a different story. But goddamn, if it does happen, I'm all for
it. They really did. In the new version, they set up a DCEU that I want to see. You know, they and the head of DC, the publisher of DC, Jim Lee, also one of their greatest artists, has been out there on Twitter and on Instagram for weeks now, just throwing out the sketches that he'd already done for what would have been Justice League 2 and Justice League 3. And Zach has been out there kind of telling people what Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 would have been. And God damn it, I want to see it. They've got me on the hook for the potential of it. Like they basically said Justice League 2, right, you guys fuck Darkseid, now Darkseid's coming to Earth to fuck you. Simple as. So the Earth gets fucked by number 2, and by number 3 we're in that nightmare scenario that we saw all the way back in Batman versus Superman, where Darkseid has taken the world, used the anti-life equation to turn Superman to his side, and has fucked the Earth, and Batman has to team up, create a ragtag team of what's left that consists of, you know, the Flash, a really depleted Cyborg, Joker, Mira, Deathstroke, to essentially hatch a plan to send Flash back in time to undo this shit, because it's the only way to beat them. And all of that, when you start looking at the 5 movie plan that we've only seen 3 movies of, that's where I start to feel like people just didn't trust his long game. They just didn't trust his long game.
And that premise
wanted it now. Yeah,
that premise has always been interesting to me, where the shit has hit the fan so badly that the bad guys and the good guys are now on the same page.
And that's where we are at the end of Snyder Cut. Like that's literally where we are at the end of Snyder Cut. And that dynamic, like even the dynamic of, if you think of the actors involved there, like the bringing back Joe Manganiello, I always fuck up his name, Joe Manganiello, as Deathstroke was, again, for me, chef's kiss of a choice for actor to play that role. And him, there's only one scene, and it's set in that nightmare world, and it contains these characters, and that one scene of setup just made me go, fuck, give me that movie. Spoilers wise, we then learn that all of these flashes from the future that he's been getting are coming from fucking Martian Manhunter, who's been in the background all of fucking long as General Swanwick, the guy who talked to Superman back in Man of Steel. Has secretly been Martian Manhunter all along, and is communicating with a future version of himself to communicate what's going to happen. And that suddenly fixes every hole that's there. I'm like, oh, right, cool. So he's been here since the start, and he knows the shit that's going on in the future, and he didn't want to involve himself, but now he's come forward.
And since we touched on it there,
yeah,
where do you guys think this is going to go forwards? Like, where do you think we go from here?
If they are to actually go ahead with it, then I'm fully trusting the process, especially if Zack Snyder is going to be the one doing it.
But we have to also say that that's unlikely to happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like, with what he is set up, but also like basically left open to a degree. If it was to be picked up again, it's just like, goddamn, it is like an unfinished story. It really is.
Like, yeah. I mean, we end the film with Lois pregnant. You know, we end the film, and there's an ambiguity there that they were going to play with as to who the actual father was.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to play with, had Lois and Bruce maybe gotten together in her grief period. But either way, they had stories written for both scenarios, which would have led to that child eventually at the end of the Justice League 5, shall we say, taking up the mantle as Batman.
Right. Okay.
Because apparently there would be a noble sacrifice situation, and Lois and Clark would take this child to the Batcave. And if it had been written that Bruce was the father, they simply would have gone, here's what your daddy did. If it had been written that Clark was the father, it would have been a child with no powers that would have been saved by Uncle Bruce's sacrifice. So
here's how we honor his memory, kind of thing.
Yeah,
they take up the mantle. Yeah.
That's
I mean, that is fascinating to me, and it is something. As I said, I'm gonna have to move the movie up my list. I'm gonna have to get it. I'm gonna have to get it watched. Because it's all positive. Honestly, I haven't heard a negative review.
Yeah. Now the thing about this movie is, and I know Warner Brothers have said that the Justice League is the canon version that they are going with going forward. But, you know, they've said these things before until fan campaigns have changed their minds. You know, they said we'd never see this film, and here we are having seen this film. And I think there's a lot of ways they can go. I think that, if they really wanted to continue this, they've got a really strong animated movie division. If they just wanted to knock out 2 animated sequels to it, they could do that. I know that HBO are all on getting Ben Affleck to do a Batman TV series.
Yes.
Short series in the style of this. But as for direct sequels, I don't think that's the way we're going to go. I think what they're going to do is they're going to reboot things using the Flash movie to change around a few things, because in the Snyder Cut, we do get a lot more of Flash's time travel abilities.
Yes.
And a lot more of,
like, the fact that he actually actively makes reference to the fact that, like, if I go this fast, I can mess with time.
Yeah, and the closer I get to light speed, the freakier time gets, is something to that effect.
Whereas like in the Justice League, like, you didn't get that kind of, like,
none of that.
Even that line, like that line would have made a big difference into what was coming, or gonna happen.
I don't want to give too many spoilers to Cutter, but I am going to say, like, I'm going to say this because it's important, right? The Justice League fail. They fail. They don't stop it. And what happens is Barry decides while he's injured that he's not going to let that happen, and he's going to break his one rule, and he has to go faster than the speed of light, and he has to do it now. So he runs at the speed of light and reverses time by a few minutes to undo the loss, and essentially saves everyone by pulling a flashpoint in the movie.
Okay.
Now, with that in mind, and knowing that they're doing a Flashpoint movie that does have Ben Affleck in it and does have Michael Keaton in it, you know, those are confirmed facts. These things are happening. So I reckon we can pull another Flashpoint and swap out a few things that aren't working or that Warner Brothers think aren't working.
Well, do you think, like, I mean, on that point, do you think it could be like linked into Robert Pattinson's upcoming portrayal of Batman as well?
Excuse me, sir, call him by his proper name, Robert Bat, as he must be known now, our sparkly Batman.
Hey, listen, I refuse. I was one of the people who shit on Heath Ledger when I heard he was cast as the Joker, and I will never make that mistake again. So I'm reserving judgment until I see it.
I know for a fact that they have confirmed that it's year 2 Batman for Matt Reeves, and as far as I'm aware, it's Earth 2.
Okay.
I also think they're going to use this Flashpoint movie to establish the multiverse.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, it's this couple with Flashpoint potentially could be, like, as you said, setting up the multiverse, but also allowing certain characters to jump to and from
other universes.
So it'll explain why, like, okay, why we're getting Michael Keaton back as, like, 89, like Batman, who like I am all for, like, all for, and
hell yeah.
Like, when the original, like, premise for having Michael Keaton come back, it was basically he'd be signed to multiple movies and play, like, a mentor role for Barry Allen, and potentially be like the Nick Fury of the DCEU, which when I heard that, I was like, yes, please, just sign me the fuck up for all that. Like Michael Keaton is back for more Batman. Yes. But, like,
and it's strange, like, how they're doing the same with Spider-Man, like, as well.
Yeah.
The stages of all of the eventual course of all comic book movies will be multiverse. Why?
Yeah.
Because it frees up directors to tell stories that aren't connected to the main canon. We are seeing in real time in the movie industry what happened in the comic book industry in the 60s and 70s.
Yep.
Writers getting too bogged down with canon, wanting to do their own thing, so they start creating Elseworlds, or they start creating what ifs, or they start creating these ways for them to tell their own stories without being bogged down in the continuity. History is repeating itself, but we're seeing it in the live action format instead of on the printed page.
Yeah.
I'm all for it too. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm psyched for all of it. I'm psyched for Keaton coming back as Batman. I'm psyched to see fucking Tobey Maguire as his dark, broody Spider-Man. You know,
at one point in 2022, we will legitimately have 3 Batman live action on screen, and we will have 3 Spider-Man live action on screen in the same year.
It'll be amazing. It'll be fan-fucking-tastic. I cannot wait. I love those what ifs, and we've touched on a couple of other podcasts as well. But, like, I remember one of my favorite storylines, and I know the storyline, but I can't remember the name of it. You will surely correct me here, or at least tell me the name of it. Is where it's the alternate universe of Batman, where his father becomes Batman and his mother becomes the Joker.
That's Flashpoint.
That is Flashpoint.
Is that actually Flashpoint?
Yeah.
Like, I adore,
and it is
that
fantastically
story.
dark.
I absolutely love that story because it gave this whole new dynamic, and that was just like, wow.
Yeah, and I love those. Shift one thing and the whole world changes.
Yes.
And DC are very, very good at that. They've done a few of them over the years.
DC did an amazing like animated version of Flashpoint.
Flashpoint. I was going to
And
bring that up. Yeah.
It's like, I don't get it. I actually don't get it. The fact that why is DC so goddamn good at the animated side of stuff, but are like
Bruce
can't
fucking Tim. there's your answer.
True. But like the fact that like they can't do a live action to save their life, but yet an animated they absolutely knock it out of the park. It's just.
I disagree. They have done good live action adaptation. Shazam
Yeah,
was class, lad. You know, Wonder Woman was class.
Yeah,
you know,
Aquaman was class.
Aquaman was class. They seem to have gotten their shit together, and I really see it as the studio finally getting a little bit hands off instead of as hands on as they were, because they wanted this big Goliath to be a big Goliath. And eventually they copped on with, hang on, maybe if we actually let people do their own thing,
maybe we won't have another Green Lantern again.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, the one that changed their minds was Joker. 100%. The film that changed their mind was Joker. Like, made for a minimal budget, set in its own universe, doing its own thing, letting a director do its own thing, playing with the characters, fucking $1 billion at the box office, shit tons of profit, studio didn't interfere at all, and that taught them a fucking lesson. That's when I knew we were going to get a multiverse, because I was like, this allows directors to do their
actually
own
have fun
and be a director, as opposed to being a cut in paste. You're gonna direct this issue, but you've got, you know, somebody coming up behind you to direct the next issue, so you got to worry about all of their problems and all the problems of the ones that came before you.
I think you've actually hit the nail on the head there, because I mean, like,
yeah,
it's not something you see very often where, like, I suppose a superhero movie is winning Oscars. So, you know, I mean, like,
right.
It's got to make you sit up and take notice. If you're a studio executive, you have to go, okay, wait now. You know, that director took our character completely, as you said, did his own fucking job in it. And it's now getting universal praise and a goddamn Oscar. Like, you know, this is what can happen. Yeah, now, it's not, obviously, it's not universal. If you let the leash off, it's going to be good. That's, you know, it very much depends, obviously, on who it is, you know. But
I mean, like, it's also solid writing, because if you could have the best actors in the world, but like, they may not have, if you don't have a solid like story for them to actually go off, then
completely.
It's like, what's a good example of that? Like that we had, like you had great actors, but unfortunately, like, the story just did not like work. And but it does. It allows directors to be directors. It allows them to have the freedom to be able to tell these new takes on stories, or twisting old stories and making them unfamiliar again. It's I am excited for if they're gonna allow like directors to actually do that, rather than be so hands-on. As I said, I know I made a joke about like Green Lantern, but that was a great example of the studio being far too involved in that, because they wanted to sell toys rather than actually give you a heavy hitter from the Justice League. Like, try to establish a new superhero on the scene in live action.
Imagine if you were to turn around now and say to people, imagine the other one hadn't existed, right? And say to people, we're going to have a Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds and Taika Waititi.
Like, and Mark Strong as well.
Mark Strong. If you were to say that to people now with all of those elements, they would go,
yes.
Oh, shit, the guy
they go, hell yeah.
Ragnarok. But all of those elements were there in that movie. And that movie was that movie. Yeah. I will give it the small bit of praise. Again, I am a fucking cunt for director's cuts. Love them. Watch the director's cut of Green Lantern. There's a better film in there. It's not much better, but it's better than what we got. But it's better than what we got.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's kind of like on the same lines as on the Marvel side. Like, they've had a couple of movies that didn't do well, but like Daredevil, the director's cut, is a solid, absolute solid film.
And do you think this is something myself and Foxy even talked about last night on a wrestling podcast, where we were talking about certain characters being dead on arrival due to constraints put on them, gimmicks, etc., that just were never going to work. Do you think that, I suppose, in a way, the damage that was done from the Justice League, do you think that damage can be fixed, or do you think that some people are just disillusioned now and just go, DC's just shit with their movies?
I mean, if we talk about the successes of DC, a lot of them have come after Justice League. You know,
that's a fair point.
Shazam, Aquaman, Shazam and Aquaman were both behemoths, and were both, for want of a better word, loosely connected to those things, and kind of did that thing. It went and did their own thing.
They're standalone.
Like by the time Aquaman finishes Aquaman, he is fully formed Aquaman. By the time Shazam is finished his movie, he has Superman walk into his canteen with him. You know, they have done these things, and they have done them well. I'm all up for James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah,
like
James Gunn has proven that, like, especially with Guardians, that he can actually do a multi-character ensemble movie and make it work. Like, you actually care about, like, the characters in it. So for him to be involved with Suicide Squad, it makes me actually, like, look forward to it. And
elevates the property.
Yes,
I'm with you there, because I have
Starro.
Yeah.
Starro.
Yes.
Starro.
Like,
I'm psyched for this one, but I was let down with the original one. You know, because I again, the premise appeals to me. I love the Suicide Squad story. I think it's a great story. I think you have lots to play with there, and that you can do. You don't need to shoehorn in romance and bullshit into it like that. You don't need to do all of that stuff with it. And the first one, to me, bar from it wasn't a complete letdown. There were a few cool moments in there that I did enjoy. Definitely, like, I enjoyed Enchantress's kind of transformation and all that with the hands. I thought that was really cool effects. And there were certain things I did enjoy, but overall, was it a movie I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go watch that again tonight? Nah. You know, and I, you know, I have hopes for this new one, because James Gunn, I think, does some fantastic work, and I the ad, to me, the trailer looks great. I'm looking forward to it.
Like, I'm one of those that stand on the camp of, like, I would love to see the Air version of Suicide Squad, because I think if I'd seen what it was originally intended to be, it might actually be I would feel better about it.
Right. Yeah, I think you could be
right. Not to say that I didn't enjoy, like, Suicide Squad. I did. I just, it was inconsistent with itself, obviously, because you had bits that are in the trailer that didn't play out in the film, and then bits in the film are not what, like, don't make sense at times.
It was cut to shit, man. It was cut to shit.
Yeah.
And
it genuinely feels that way. It feels that way.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where, like, you know, I definitely think, and I don't think there's many bad examples of it, where a director's cut, I don't think I've seen a director's cut that has lessened the film in any way. You know, it's only ever been a case of, like, I go right the way back to one of the first director's cuts I ever saw was the director's cut of Aliens, and that made, you know, the story of Hadley's Hope that much better. For fuck's sake, at this point in my life, I've watched 7 different cuts of Blade Runner. You know, I'll go even nerdier. I've got 3 different cuts of Highlander 2 on DVD. Specifically Highlander 2. There's 3 different cuts.
Do you remember the TV series?
But I've all 7 seasons all sitting over there. But, like, I'm to this day convinced there's a good film in Highlander 2. We just haven't found it yet, and we'll keep trying.
My name is Duncan MacLeod from the Clan MacLeod.
Yes. I am Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, chief metallurgist to King Charles V of Spain, and I am at your service.
I love those films. I do.
Do you remember when Christopher Lambert used to do things?
Yeah,
Like,
I do. Like, remember he was raiding that one time?
Oh my God, do it. Man, I adore that movie. That
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat movie is the fucking bomb. I love that shit.
No joke. I had to watch that before I watched the new one. And I'm glad I did.
Same. If you like that shit, I highly recommend the Mortal Kombat Legends animated movies that they're doing at the moment. They're fucking class. They've done one. It's called Scorpion's Revenge. The second one is called The Legend Begins, and that's coming out like next month. But yeah, get on the animated ones. And again, it's Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers animated division. Yep. They are fucking knocking shit out of the park every day of the week with what they do.
Like, this is like, there's certain movies that like you give a pass to being a bit schlocky, to being a bit cheesy. You know, Mortal Kombat is one of them for me.
Absolutely.
Definitely, it has a pass. It has a place in my heart. I have several of those movies though that I'll watch just like
Mortal Kombat. I love specifically the moment of Scorpion gets fucked up by Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage somehow from we've seen him for the whole of this movie, and he's just wearing a shirt and pants. Somehow manages to pull an 8x10 from somewhere, sign it, and throw it into like.
I still want the Miz to be Johnny Cage, because I think he is Johnny Cage in real life.
The crossover appeal there is so good. If we get the Miz as Johnny Cage, I am so into that. Like,
he's Johnny Cage in real life. I think he would be fucking brilliant. But that holds a place. There's one scene I can never forget out of that. It's when Liu Kang is dreaming. And it's his brother's dying. He's on the bridge with Shang Tsung. And yeah, but it's just his face. It goes a close up of Shang Tsung. I don't know if it's and he just goes, "You're mine," and it's just like whoop.
Yeah, I know the exact.
Brilliant. Soul is mine. No,
God bless carry our you together.
But then, for completely different reasons, I'll also watch Street Fighter the movie.
I love it.
Because that's just shockingly bad, but it's just it's
Jean-Claude high on hopped up on coke.
Oh man, it's amazing.
For me, that movie, I mean, fucking Raul Julia in his final performance, just fucking kicking fucking ass, you know.
Hamming it
for you, the day that bison graced your land was the greatest and most terrible day of your life. For me, it was a Tuesday.
That is an objectively fantastically written line. I'm sorry, that is brilliant.
I did love that Omega rocked that line out when he showed up on Impact.
Like that, it's just a fantastic. I love that. It's a nice little bit of schlock cheesy movie. I'm sure anybody watching this channel has probably seen that, but do yourselves a favor, go watch it again, because honestly, I'm not saying it's a good movie, because it's not, but it's you'll laugh, and it's just
how bad
fun.
It is.
It's so fun. It's just a really fun movie.
There's so many movies from that period, from the late 80s to the early 90s, that are just in. Me and Foxy have talked about this loads. They're so bad they're good. You can't. There are so many so bad they're good movies. Like, I have a couple on my list that I know are objectively terrible films. Johnny Mnemonic is not a good film. My God, I fucking love it. It's an anime movie come to life in the 90s with Keanu Reeves doing his top best quality acting. It's like...
Do you know one I looked back at recently? And it was fucking horrifying. It was Lawnmower Man.
Oh God, I love that movie. There's a director's cut of that movie as well. There is. I'm not fucking joking. There's a director's cut of the Lawnmower Man that really gets into the agony of the monkey that escapes at the start.
Oh Jesus! Because that's what was lacking.
That's why you're lacking animal cruelty.
It gives you the emotional backstory of the weaponized monkey that escapes.
like
man.
that movie. I want, it like
It's so
graphically
bad.
or whatever.
Yeah,
It has not aged well.
No, God.
But it's I don't know. I still enjoyed it. So what more could you want? I still liked it.
In my childhood growing up, if film had physical comic books in it, that made it a class film. Because there were so few that did. Like the Lost Boys had a comic book store in it, so therefore it was the coolest movie in the world.
So you must have loved like the game Comic Zone.
Oh yeah.
So,
I still have that game for the Mega Drive on my shelf over there. The dude with the ponytail and the I'm not saying I based my whole visual appearance on that guy, but like,
the writer who gets sucked into his comics. I mean, that's what you're aiming for, right? I mean,
it's a cool world scenario. I'm into it.
Cool World. Hey, Cool World is fucking amazing.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
Cool World. I loved Cool World. Cool World. My parents didn't really like. It was one of those movies that flew under their radar, so they used to let me watch it.
Yeah.
So like,
Lawnmower Man was that for me, and Lawnmower Man, the director's cut, I discovered actually had full titty in it. So like, that was one of those.
If you didn't like Lawnmower Man before,
I'm just
how about director's cut? There's extra titty.
Those are titties.
And folks, if you're listening, you have to remember, right? Given I'm assuming Ciaran is probably the same age as us ish.
30-ish.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, mid 30s, thereabouts for me. But
mid to late.
But we're from an era where you used to, you had to stay up to midnight to try and get that Playboy Channel Freeview,
or the Men and Motors.
Men and Motors. There was another Jesus
Bravo.
Christ. There's something.
That's a phrase I had not heard or thought about in a very long time.
What, Freeview or Men and Motors?
Both, lads. I mean,
there was the other one. What was it? Do you remember Eurotrash?
Yeah, Eurotrash was class.
Badly dubbed porn.
Yeah, badly dubbed porn.
Yep. Oh, lads, memories. We've got off of the DCU completely.
So anyway, back to now. Can we talk about the complex story arc of Harley Quinn throughout the Suicide Squad? Her mention in Justice League by Zack Snyder, and I enjoyed Birds of Prey. Just putting that out there. I enjoyed Birds of Prey. I thought that was an okay movie. I'm looking forward to seeing Harley again directed by James Gunn. I really think that's going to let her off the leash and shoot her to the moon. And I mean, we've got John Cena, who, by all accounts, appears to be turning what I can only describe as a X, Y, or Z list DC character into someone I want to see fight Superman. Like, because
I'm sorry, like him or loathe him, John Cena has charisma out the wazoo, right?
Like unbelievable levels of the shit. Like,
and he has great comic timing that doesn't get enough praise as well. I think he could be really good in. From what I've seen, it's really good. Did you read an interview with him recently where he was talking about there's like an enchilada scene or something?
Yeah.
Where they're like, you don't have to eat all. He's like, no, I do. And he ate like 40 enchiladas or something like that, made himself sick for a particular scene that they were doing.
Like, you talk about like his comedic timing. Like, what was that film that he did a cameo in where he was like the drug dealer? Like,
he was all tattooed up. The Bridesmaids, or no, it was like it was a chick flick. And I hate
Trainwreck or something like that.
But it was one of those movies, and I remember seeing it. And he's just like this taller dude who comes in, bangs her, and fucking fucks off, and has just a couple of interactions at a party.
But he's brilliant because like he's so deadpan, and he's listing off all the drugs that he has right there for sale for them, and it's just continuous line of like different drugs, but he's just deadpan, and it's hilarious because of it. Because everyone beside him are just like,
motherfucker,
is that list gonna end? It's like, come on. It's like, but like his comedic timing for that, or like that film Trainwreck, he's being the date for the main character, and someone's like talking behind them
he loses his shit.
He loses the shit with them, and it's like, I will fuck you right now, right here, right now. And it's like, that's not how it works. It's like,
Recently, he's been dialing into the it's one of the late night shows. I can't remember which one in the States. In character as Peacemaker.
Oh,
Just
brilliant.
reporting from the set in full costume, like playing
Brilliant.
toys of himself and fucking shit like this. And I'm just like, this, I can tell, much like any championship he ever held, he's going to elevate the character of Peacemaker just by being him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We now have, and I just want to put it forward, lads, we now have a DC universe where John Cena can fight The Rock.
Jesus, I forgot The Rock is Black Adam, of course.
he's been involved with DC for so long, we forgot about it.
Yeah.
Like,
But
That's been going for a long time now, actually.
It's in pre-production now. It's gearing up to go.
yeah.
But like, we actually have a DC universe where
Oh man, take my fucking money.
What I find
Cena
hilarious
Rock
is that
3 can actually happen.
what's crazy about it is that like Batista's on the outside trying to get in. And it's like, hello DC, I would like to be there. It's like, can I get in? It's like, no.
He's
already
been
have two
sullied.
wrestlers.
He's been sullied by those Marvel bastards.
I hear Matt Reeves is looking for him for Bane.
He's
He
expressed
would
interest
be
for
a
Bane.
fantastic Bane. He would be a great Bane.
Mm-hmm.
He would
Now,
fit the
depending
part.
if you're going with the kind of comic book version where you want the kind of weedy guy, and then you want him hopped up on Venom.
No, you want this bulky guy like you do.
Actually, no, yeah, that's fair. He was always big, but Bane is just bigger.
Yeah, but
If that when he's on Venom,
if
it's bigger.
I think we need. We've seen Bane in two different versions. We've seen the intellectual Bane, which he is, and we've seen the muscly brute Bane in a very shitty version in Batman and Robin. But put those two things together. Bane is an intellectual, but he is also a beast.
Yeah.
And I think that Batista, the Beast incarnate, is the one to do it.
He's meant to be.
Think he would be.
I think it'd be great. He's meant to be a
genius level strategist.
Yeah.
Like
he was born in La Prisca, is it?
Yeah, La Prisca.
Like, so he's, he has these bad and but he was never stupid. That's the point of it. Is he's never stupid. But he is hooked on Venom.
Yeah, a lot of the time they downplayed his actual intelligence. Like they always played off his brute strength, but that's why the likes of like Nightfall is a great Bane story.
Yeah,
because it really showcases like the intellect of Bane.
Mm-hmm. And I think as well, there's more reception to that now as well, because even in the Arkham games, say, he's treated more intelligently. Yes. He's not just a brute. When he's kind of working on his own and not under somebody's control, he is very smart and can run things himself.
Like Tom King did a comic book storyline recently called City of Bane. And if you enjoy Flashpoint, you'll enjoy the fact that this involved Bane's strategy going as far as to take Batman's father, who became Flashpoint Batman from another universe, into our universe, and recruiting him to his cause to take down Batman and successfully doing so, because this is not the life his father ever wanted for him. And
that's very interesting.
It is a very, very good storyline, and it involves Bane systematically taking down all of the support systems for Batman before facing him in a fight where he has jacked himself up on a new version of Venom, which is combined with, I think, Scarecrow's fear toxin and Joker's venom to soup him up to a point where he's never been. And he does successfully take down the Batman. Now, again, we do the story where Batman, builds back up and comes back to it and all of that. But it's not without cost. This is the storyline that eventually leads to the death of Alfred Pennyworth, and that it being witnessed by his son Damian Wayne. And just it's another adult figure getting killed in front of a Wayne boy. It's a really good story. I highly recommend it. Ran from, I think, issue 90 to issue 100 of the recent Batman run. It was definitely by Tom King, and it was definitely called City of Bane. And it's
interesting
comic story.
I did to tack on to that, like that has like long lasting effects, because like Damian Wayne has now renounced Bruce and is now
renounced
gone on
Robin
his own.
as a title. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and the costume is awesome looking. I actually love it. Like, it's a nice change.
I think I have one right here. 1 second. Keep talking.
Like, no joke. Like, Dennis, like, when you see this, it's just like, this is really cool. Like, it's a good progression for Damian Wayne to step out of the Robin moniker, like a title that he essentially isn't entitled to. Tilt it a little bit. There's a shine.
Very nice.
Like, still kept elements of it, of the Robin costume, but like
made it his own.
Yeah.
And didn't I? Now I could be wrong here because I could be remembering things wrong, but I could have swore I read somewhere recently that there was rumors of Robin making an appearance in an upcoming movie. Now they weren't sure quite. It was speculation about it more than confirmation. And even possibly toying with the idea of the Jason Todd story, which I adore as a story.
They're doing that in Titans right now.
Yeah.
The live action.
Is that where maybe I read it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's where it's happening.
But they are also toying with the idea of having a Robin in the Matt Reeves universe.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this version is said to be, now it's only rumor at the moment, but they've kind of like said that he would be darker and a bit more sinister than Robins we've had in the past. Because if you look at the trailer for the Batman, like, Batman is very vicious and like almost like he's very vicious and just very violent. So like you would have to have someone that is either going to learn from him, or he sees potential in this kid that's like obviously like very angry and violent themselves. And Bruce is nurturing that in not the best way.
You see, I adored the Jason Todd thing, like, from fan backlash, which led to him being killed off, or so we thought, and then kind of coming back as Red Hood, and just being fucking like a killer. You know, and a complete badass. It always makes me think of like Metal Gear Solid as well, which was done obviously afterwards with Raiden, and how people hated him, and then they brought him back as a badass later on.
He's essentially DCU's Winter Soldier.
Yes, that's a very concise way of putting it. Yeah, it's exactly it.
Those two stories ran concurrently in comics. Jason Todd and Bucky Barnes. Both resurrected around the same time.
I wasn't aware of. They were at the same time.
Played as the anti-hero for a while, and then both coming around to the same way. It's a very strong comparison, because they were the two characters that a lot of people used to hang on to and say, well, those two never came back until they did.
Yeah.
And
because nobody dies in comics anymore.
Exactly. And if you're interested in the Jason Todd story, then Titans is absolutely the show for you. It starts, episode 1 is Dick Grayson going out on his own for the first time as Robin. And
fuck Batman.
The infamous fuck Batman trailer. Yeah. But that's telling the story of a Robin who has become so violent as a result of being around Batman that he now needs to separate from him to tone down the violence that is within.
Right. Okay.
Right. And what he then sees as Robin, the progression of Dick Grayson, is he's gone from Bruce for a year, and then randomly, in a situation where Dick Grayson is being overwhelmed, Dick Grayson is saved by Robin. And that Robin is Jason Todd. And that Jason Todd is quite, seeing as we're on the subject, he's a bit of a Snyder bro style Jason Todd. He's like, sup bro, heard you were the first Robin, I'm obviously the improvement, you know, that kind of of an attitude.
Make him as annoying as possible for what we have planned. you know.
And now we get to season 3, and the trailer for season 3 dropped, and it's very much so Joker beating. I should note that if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, Jorah Mormont plays Bruce Wayne in this universe.
Okay. All right.
which is a
Class.
strange choice. Like,
Very strange choice, but that man can do the Batfatsu almost as good as fucking Adam West, and I never would have thought I'd see that on film. So there we go.
Blasphemer! How dare you?
You have not seen the dance until you see the dance. Cast your own dispersions. But yeah, no, Titans is absolutely telling the story of the Robins. We know that we're getting Jason Todd becoming Red Hood in season 3, and we know that we're getting Tim Drake being introduced in live action for the first time as well.
Oh.
So that's your show, and that show also contains wonderful versions of the classic Teen Titans, as well as some of the more modern ones. I'm rocking a Superboy t-shirt right now because that's my favorite version of Superboy, and that version of Superboy, Connor Kent, is class in Titans. Hawk and Dove are pretty good too.
I did enjoy them introducing the Doom Patrol in season 1.
Yeah, and then Doom Patrol spinned off into its own show.
But like having was it Brendan Fraser?
Yeah, as Robot Man. Yeah,
as Robot Man. And
I love me some Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
He is brilliant in it.
Yeah.
Like
to bring this back, because I'm sure we're running tight, but
yeah.
But to bring it back to the DCEU, if you had to pick one thing, what would you say you are most excited for coming up in the future in that universe? We'll start with you, Foxy.
Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. Like, it's obvious. Like, anyone who grew up with like the 89 and like Returns, like, we've been wanting a third film with Michael Keaton for years. So
they are gospel.
Very fair. I can't argue that point. I'm psyched for that too.
Right, I'm gonna look. Just give me a second to go through the slate because I can't pick the same one as him. So fuck.
Sorry, I had to get that in there first.
I'm obviously looking forward to Matt Reeves' Batman. I think that the way that they're looking at it. Like, I mean, Colin Farrell is unrecognizable.
I didn't even recognize him. I really didn't. I was like, "Fuck off."
Me either. That was
for years. I had in my head I wanted a Bob Hoskins looking penguin, and I didn't realize that the Bob Hoskins looking penguin I wanted was going to be Colin Farrell. That's just fucking blowing my mind. I like the way that they're setting that universe up as a darker version of the universe, and I like the way we're already setting up. We were talking earlier about what the future is bringing, and we are talking now about what the future is bringing. And what I think we're going to see is multiverse, and I think we're going to allow it to perform on several different platforms the way the Marvel stuff does now. We know that the Matt Reeves show, or the Matt Reeves movie, is getting a Gotham GCPD based TV series with the guy who's playing Jim Gordon as Jim Gordon in that series. We know that. That's fact. Bruce Timm is coming back to do a pseudo prequel / sequel to Batman the Animated Series called Batman the Caped Crusader, which is also in conjunction with Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams. So we also have a pretty healthy live action slate of films. We've got the Flashpoint movie coming up. We've got the Suicide Squad coming up. We've also got Black Adam. We've also got Peacemaker from Suicide Squad getting a TV series on HBO Max.
Aquaman 2.
Shazam 2. Separate thing to Black Adam. And, you know, all of these properties are making me go, yeah, cool. These are all great. I want to see a John Constantine movie done properly.
Oh, there you go. Yes. All the yes.
I want my John Constantine, and I want it now. And if we're doing multiverse, let's just canonize Keanu as an alternate John Constantine. Or we could bring, because I know that there's been talk of doing a sequel to that Constantine film.
That's right.
But
that movie holds up. I really enjoy that movie. I really enjoy that movie.
I hate that John Constantine isn't blonde and from Liverpool, but I'll never get over that. But it's a good movie. I've much love for Matt Ryan's version of Constantine that exists in the DC TV series.
It does, as a former smoker, it does hurt to watch because I just want to smoke the whole time. watching it because the bastards, because it's Constantine.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Silk of Purples all the way.
Yeah,
Since
you know, like-
1987. I love John Constantine as a character, and as much as Shazam cracked the door open on the magic side of DC, I think a property led by John Constantine could really lead you into those areas.
And do you
Imagine
know
a
they're
Justice
quite,
League Dark.
yeah,
Justice
but
League
there are
Dark.
quite a lot of people that don't even realize that Constantine is a DC property. That's how
Exactly.
different it is.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
it's why I still to this day love I watch DC's Legends of Tomorrow purely for John Constantine at this point, because I love seeing John Constantine play with other DC characters.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, you know, John Constantine in canon in comics has knocked out 2 of Superman's teeth and then tore off Superman's red underwear to wipe the blood on. John Constantine for me is one of those characters that, yeah, like I love Doctor Strange, but on the DC side of things, I just love the down and dirty street magician that John Constantine is.
Yeah.
And I want to see something with that.
And you know, I can't argue with you. Constantine to me, like a lot of most superheroes are written, but for him it felt more pronounced, where it's a deeply flawed character.
Horribly flawed.
But it's never hidden. It's brought to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It just reminded me, like, we also have an Injustice movie coming out.
That's right. That's
And
right.
if you followed along with the games and the comics, sweet Jesus, like having a live action or animated version, holy crap, I'm all for that. Like,
I don't think we've given enough credit to the DC animated movie division while we've been talking about all this, but they've been firing on all cylinders for a good 10 years now.
Yeah,
they've always been great,
and their continuity is solid. Their characters are solid. There's a strong string from Flashpoint to now of, I think, 17 or 18 in continuity movies that really highlight all of these characters that we've been talking about in a much better way than the live action films have done, and tells some of the most legendary stories. They do the death of Superman in there, they do the resurrection of Superman in there, they do Flashpoint, they do the Dark Side War, they do John Constantine rising to the ranks and eventually becoming a full Justice League member and shit like that. And the DC animated movies are tops in my mind. Most recently, they just dropped Batman The Long Halloween Part 1, and it's a nearly perfect adaptation of that graphic novel. So if your tastes run more towards direct adaptation of comic book stories, lean in and have a look at the DC animated movie division, because they're fucking class. That's class. Pure class.
definitely. What about you? Fair. What about you, Cor? What are you looking forward to?
Finally watching the Snyder Cut.
We got him. We got him, everybody. We got him.
Actually, let me show. I'll show you if I can show you on camera just a message while we were doing this. I sent to my wife in the other room, which it's reversed, but it says, "Want to watch Justice League tonight?"
Sounds good.
So yeah, you've hooked me. I will be watching that one. If not tonight, I'll be watching it this weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome. And fuck it, honestly, I think I'm going to have a lot of free time soon. So I'll be able to watch it. I'll be able to watch it in time. But yeah, I'm finally going to get it done. I think it's been kind of on the list for such a long time now.
Yeah.
That other more, and I think for me it was and I know for a lot of people it was the same as well. It's that time is a bit daunting to go into. You know, when you have other more easily digestible things that you can kind of consume. But you know, the fact that you've kind of said, well, you know, it is split into chapters, you know, so if you're a little bit tired, you can take your break, you can go do whatever, you can even come back to it the next night if you want to.
Yeah.
It seems to be very smartly laid out.
It does.
And obviously the bad taste still remains from the Joss Whedon version.
Who shall not be named.
Yeah. But you know, you guys have said it that, you know, and several other sources, that it's like a new movie. and it really does redeem it. So I mean, I'd be a fool not to give it a shot to at least see just how much can change when the director is enabled to show his vision.
Exactly.
You know.
And I also just want to give a huge shout out to the method in which Zach did it. I don't know if I don't think we even talked about it, but he took no money for this.
I was not aware. No.
He said, I don't want to take any fee for what I'm doing for this. I just want the money to finish the special effects, and any fees and any excess fees, any profits he would have made at the post end of it, go to the Alone charity, which was set up in support of in the name of Autumn Snyder. So Zach actually did this movie for no money, just with the adage that whatever he presented to them as final cut, they put out there, and they honored that agreement. So to me, that's something that really shows that it wasn't a money thing for him. It was
to finish the vision.
It was to finish the vision of coming back to something that he didn't get to finish because he lost his daughter at the time.
Yeah.
To do it in such a way where funds can then go to support other people in need.
Possibly maybe helping him gets a little bit, not that you ever really could, but a little bit of closure.
A little bit
on something,
on
you know?
that chapter of his life and that chapter with his daughter. I came out of it thinking, fuck, if you could have told me in 2000, whenever, a couple of years back, that, nowadays we would consider Zack Snyder to be a very, very noble and cool human, and Joss Whedon is in the bin, I would have ended up the other way around. But here we are. We're in this timeline.
Yeah. But there's I mean, that's an incredible gesture from him, and something very noble, as you said as well. And almost like, this is what I kind of think. Not looking at it would almost be a disservice at this stage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a weird way, in a kind of a roundabout way. It's kind of like, I watched the first one. That's not what should have been viewed. You need to watch the second one. So I will definitely be doing that.
And do that with the knowledge that not one second of footage shot by Joss Whedon is in that movie. and you will be surprised when you start realizing what scenes were shot by Joss and the tone that they took. You'll go, oh, Joss was, okay. I'll leave it at that. We'll talk about it.
But no, like, you're completely right, and it's I suppose we'd be talking for hours if we're going to continue, but I suppose we better off saving some for a later date, and we shall wrap it up right here. But I want to thank my guests, Carter and Ciaran Marcantonio, for coming back onto the show again. It is good to be back again, doing this. Hopefully, with some visual references for you in post-production. But I've been your host, Foxy, and it's been the Foxy Bros podcast. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.